It's finally here! Yes! Hey everyone, welcome to Mr. Teach Film Preach, and if you're a lover of films like I am, and if you learn from films as much as I do, then you are in the right place. And if you feel like you're in the right place, click like down below and subscribe to my channel. Also, join me in on the conversation. What did you all think of Dune? It's finally here after a year-long delay. I'm so excited to talk about this film today, partly because this was one of my most anticipated films of 2021. Yeah! You can also check out my playlist for 2021 films that I've reviewed so far this year. Today we are talking about the 2021 adult science fiction film, Dune. Written and directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is this great, if not one of my favorite working directors. Also, French-Canadian, represent Canada.
Okay, this is the Great White North, okay, on the map. Now here is a different color because it's like USA.
This is based on Frank Herbert's sci-fi fiction book, Dune. It's almost like a Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars situation where there's lots of characters, there's lots of factions, there's lots of families, all trying to achieve a goal of leading the spice world, which is, in this universe, is the most important element, is this spice. This story is about this young man, Paul, who is the prince of this kingdom sent to this planet. And so this family is tasked with looking after this planet, providing safety and control and sustainability to this planet, and to harvest also the spice from the ground. And that's where the movie just starts. First thing I love about this movie is it sets us up in a totally different new world. Denis does a phenomenal job bringing this book to life. Now, I've never read the book.
Boo, you whore.
This was my first introduction into the Dune world. So I first of all just appreciated being dropped into a totally different universe, different time. Second thing, the filmmaking is impeccable. I was mesmerized. It was so stunning to look at. The cinematography was incredible. So much of this movie is shot outside in these big, giant, sweeping landscape shots. Like, it reminded me of like Lawrence of Arabia, but updated for the 21st century sci-fi version of it. The real locations that they filmed in. Everything just felt very lived in, very immersive. I felt like I was there with the characters. Even just on those really cool looking helicopters, things that have the wings and they fly, just the way they shot that, visceral. It felt like Sicario in space. So there was a sense of realism, but scope and epic fantasy world. So it was this really cool mix of both fantasy, sci-fi, realism, and he blended this all in together. The music is fantastic. Hans Zimmer, just the experience of this movie alone in the movie theater with the surround sound and just being immersed in that world was so worth it. I would be shocked if it doesn't win Best Score or Best Sound Design. The visual effects, the lack of visual effects. So there's a lot of shots that are real. Nothing seemed CGI in this film. Everything felt flawless and just meshed so well together. I couldn't tell, except for maybe like the big giant sandworm, I could barely ever tell that there was special effects. And you're being swallowed up by these real set pieces all being blended together. He is a masterful filmmaker. I mean, this is the same director who did movies like Enemy, Prisoners, Sicario, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. Like, this man knows what he's doing. The cast is amazing. Like, look at this cast list. Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Jason Momoa, Stellan Skarsgård, Javier Bardem, Zendaya, Dave Bautista. This cast is just like A-list, stacked. The standout for me is Timothée Chalamet. What I always thought of him before Dune. I thought he was a good actor. After Dune, he impressed me. He was fantastic in this movie. He has to carry this film. And I can't wait to see him in the next one, part 2, and can't wait to see what he does next. I don't want to give too much away, but I do want to say the scenes with the sandworm were unbelievable. That is what you go to the movie theaters for. Now, while I love this film and there's so many great things about it, there's a couple of small things. Wasn't a fan that they cut this movie in half.
Dewey! I'm halved!
I I understand why they had to. This book is massive. There's so much detailed. Where they cut in the movie and where the film ends, it feels incomplete. It doesn't feel like a full story. It feels like we got a setup and then it ended. It's a bit disappointing. I'm sure this will change once part 2 comes out and we get the whole thing. Hopefully part 2 comes out. That might be even better than this one because the payoff will be so great. The story will be completed. We'll have probably some bigger action set pieces, some giant battles and things like that. Second thing, the movie was a smidge too long. There was a lot of walking, or there was a lot of just sweeping shots, which I love and I appreciate. But when you're trying to tell a well-rounded story, you got to figure out what's important to keep in the film and what isn't. And I think filmmakers get caught up that everything they shoot is very important and needs to be in the film. The scenes could have been edited shorter, didn't have to be quite as long. While this movie really did focus on the characters more than the action or even the story itself, it was trying to set up all these very complicated relationships. Because of that, there's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of telling the audience what's going on, what has happened in the past, while trying to still be creative and push the story forward. And at times, I felt it was a little much. It was hard to understand what exactly was going on, where I feel like I'm gonna have to view it multiple times. In the moment, in the theater, as it was happening, I was a bit confused. I was a little lost. I didn't have any context, any background of the Dune world. I would maybe suggest for people to check out some YouTube videos on the background of Dune, or what Dune is even about, what are some of the different families, and what the mythology behind this world is. If I'd done that, I think I would have actually enjoyed this film a little bit more. And that's a little bit of a deterrent for this film. Because there are so many characters, a lot of character development, or us as the audience caring for these characters, are lost in the vastness, in the scope of this epic film. These characters seem a little bit removed or at an emotional arm's length from the audience. But those are my only things. Overall, this movie is stunning, you guys. You have to go check it out. It is a wonderful movie, what I would call an epic sci-fi fantasy, and done in a very creative way. Something that we haven't really seen before. And that's what I'm looking when I go see a film, whether that be a big scale budget like this or a small scale indie film. So for that, I tip my hat towards Denis. He is a master filmmaker. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and give Dune an A-. Yes, great job. One of my favorite films of this year so far. What did you guys think of Dune? Was this the masterpiece that you were hoping it would be, or were you extremely let down? Or did you just think, yeah? Let me know in your thoughts and comments down below. While you're down there, click like and subscribe for more content to my channel. I'm also posting a bunch of more films later this week, so Eternals will probably be up here, Pig, and you can also check out my playlist for the 2021 films I've reviewed so far. Thank you for coming and checking out Mr. T's Film Preach. I hope you had a great time. Stay focused, stay awesome, and as always, let's get taught.